the biome has actually been collapsing long before modern farming. The dinosaurs went extinct largely because of a collapse of the topsoil that happened when the whole soil got covered with a layer of dust that led to a hypoxic event. And so we lost, some unknown amount of species variation in the soil with that event, and we suddenly lost a lot of plant life, and the density of the soils dropped, and we had a huge die out before, over time. And then, of course, modern agriculture starting, 1100 years ago, we have steadily been killing the soils in which we live by poor crop rotation and the rest. We should have bacteria and fungi. We should have their redox signaling molecules within our gut, within our bloodstream, within, communicating across blood-brain barrier, etc. And we've had that in diminishing amounts for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
This theme of kind of going back to our roots, getting closer to nature and moving away from antibiotics and modified food and modified light and water and everything else seems to be one that crops up again and again on this podcast in terms of more energy. I mean, is this something that kind of manifests itself in other areas of your life in terms of how you eat and how you align your circadian rhythms and what you do for exercise and stuff like that?
100%. 100%. The source of all energy on Earth is really only one. You could argue maybe two, but it's ultimately from suns, right? Namely from our sun, but the electron force that comes in through our atmosphere is really the only thing that exchanges across our layer of intense blanket that we have that wraps this planet up. So every molecule of water, every chemical compound on Earth, everything started here. We can shuffle the deck chairs chemically and we can make man-made chemicals, but the actual elements have all been here since the beginning of Earth time. You could argue maybe meteorites hit occasionally and bring in some new information or mineral. But really, the only thing coming and hitting Earth new is this huge electron flow of energy from the sun and distant stars that flow in not just from sunlight, but through the aurora borealis or the northern lights. That ion exchange that's pouring into our atmosphere to create the northern lights is a huge, huge current of electrons pouring in from solar flares and distant galactic events onto planet Earth. That's then, captured by the bacteria, the fungi, and the plants, and that puts the energy into our food. And so now think about our food chain and what we're doing to it. We grow these in very abnormal environments for our meat production. Our chickens never see the sunshine. Our pork never sees the sunshine. Our cows see less and less of any sort of healthy ecosystem around them. But you think especially about the poultry industry, which is the single largest meat production industry on the planet. It's 7 times larger than the beef industry. This massive, massive poultry industry, our food is never seeing its main source of energy in the sun.
Yeah, that's dreadful.
And so you start to realize that the food that we're putting in our mouth is calorie rich, but energy deplete, if you will. The downside of meat are many now because we live on a toxic planet. The higher you eat on the food chain, the more toxin is invariably embedded in that. And the concept of organic, it's profound when you start to look at what we call organic farming is far from good soil practices often. So we are still in a very artificial environment when we have an organic stamp on our food. So, and I don't know if you followed this recently, but the USDA recently allowed the hydroponic systems to now be called organic. Now, a hydroponic system, much like we talked about the chicken, now we have tomatoes and vegetables and fruits that are growing in covered areas that don't get the sunlight like they would out in an open field, are never touching soil in their entire lifespan, and we call that an organic food. And so it's a real decimation of nature happening in our entire food system.